Hey everyone, welcome back to part two. I am with Simon Squibb, entrepreneur, investor and founder of the Purposeful Project. So in part two, we're going to be talking about how to build and scale a business. So looking from the start, working our way through and just getting Simon's take on that, which I'm very interested to hear as well. So Simon, starting with anyone that's watching, that's thinking, okay, I'm going to smash it on social media, I'm going to start building a brand, a business. We've covered that in part one. If you haven't seen that, go check it out. Where does someone start when taking action, whether that's a physical business, as I know you've done that as well, or is an online business? Where does someone start in order to go on to do that?
Well, first of all, just say you don't start with money. A lot of people say, I've got even an idea, or they want to start a business, but they need money. Mm-hmm. That's actually the worst place to start. I think the best place to start is, again, this is just the way I've done it, is what matters to you. You know, so I will think, don't ask a kid what they're going to do when they grow up, but ask them what problem they're going to solve. Yeah. So, you know, what are you going to do that's interesting to you? Be selfish about it. And then as you start to think through the idea, I believe the first steps are talk to a potential customer. See if you can convince them to say they would use your service. You know, do some initial pitching. Get some potential your social media stuff set up. Just register the URLs. Get your business trademarked. If you're coming up with a name, a lot of people forget to do this, and then years later they get into a lot of trouble on trademark. But you know, again, you can check this all for free. None of this I've just described there, setting up your social media handles, except maybe a couple of dollars on GoDaddy or something for your URL. None of it really costs a lot of money, and you can get the business quite far ahead and up and running without any money. I mean, my first business at 15 years old was a gardening company, and I literally knocked on someone's door and said, "Hi, I'm Simon Squibb and I've got a gardening company, can I take care of your garden?" I had no registered company, of course I had no website, I had no brochure, I didn't have any gardening equipment, I'd never ever taken care of someone else's garden. And someone said yes. And they gave me the work, and then I asked them for a 50% deposit, cash. They gave it to me, and I did that 10 times in a day and got the money for the deposit for the lawnmower. You know, so sometimes I think, and funny enough, I had a competitor start up 9 months later, and they went and raised money, and they bought all this brand new equipment. But by the time they came to market, I already had all the relationships with the clients.
Yeah, no clients.
You know, so I think sometimes people over-engineer building businesses, and they overthink it, and you know, build a business plan, pitch to investors. A year later, they're still thinking about launching their business. I say if you can. You know, maybe these days it's not so easy to knock on a door, but the great thing about social media is you don't need to. You just do a video and put it up. You know, that's enough.
Awesome. So I've got a question for you, because through my network of business owners who I know, there is a complete, I would say there's a 50-50 split here. And let me know in the comment below what you think on this, is that some people say you've got to love the product, you've got to be really involved in it. I know another business owner who's 200 million plus a year who says, I couldn't give a monkey's about the product. Yep. I know the business, I know how to make it make money. They really, in fact, Tyler, you've met him as well, he does not like the product, but he knows how to run the business. There's a real split. Yeah. What is it to you?
Yeah, and I know exactly the two profiles you're talking about too. I think, you know, one of the most famous examples of this in business history in the UK is Ratner Jewellery. And the guy built up a massive empire selling crap jewellery, right? And in one day he let it slip. That's how he felt, and the whole business collapsed. You see, that's where it comes unstuck, in my view. The lack of love for your product. Times? I think in the end, you can build a business both ways. But I would argue the people I've met that are building a business they don't love, often I've discovered they're not enjoying their lives much. They're happy to have a wife they don't really love. Yeah. They're happy to go on a holiday they don't really like. They're happy to, you know, there's lots of things they're willing to do that don't make them happy. And I say, why? Life's short. Yeah. Well, I'd rather be poor building a business I love with purpose than rich building a business that doesn't make a difference in the world that I care about. And so there are many ways to make money. This is one of my issues with crypto. You know, there's plenty of people walking around. I just saw someone recently who, you know, posting that they're buying lots of crypto and then buying Ferraris with that crypto. You know, it's just soulless. You know, it's just soulless to me, and I understand why they're doing it, and it makes good YouTube content, and, you know, they call themselves a British entrepreneur, and I'm just like, that's not entrepreneurial. You have entrepreneurship, in my mind, at least, is you're involved in something you can have a control over its potential success. Yeah. Right. So when you're putting money in crypto, you're just going to the casino. You
Yeah.
can't call yourself an entrepreneur when you're doing that.
Yeah.
And actually, it's not producing anything positive. Now, a lot of people disagree with me, number 50-50 on this, right? A lot of people fucking love crypto. But I honestly believe that, you can, and if you're listening, you can go and build a business with purpose, or you can go build a business with no purpose. The difference might be you'll still make money both ways, but how you make your money, in my view, is what ends up making you have a happy life. I'm happy I made my money the hard way. I'm proud to tell my son that I built companies that employed people. I built companies that helped people. Then he's proud, and that's when he'll go on butterfly effect, hopefully, to do something positive with his life.
And it's moulded you as well. You.
Yeah, and I think definitely I could afford today just to buy crypto and sit on it and all that. But it just doesn't. It's not real entrepreneurship. So
there's no connection between what you're doing and actually the product. There's nothing.
No. And I feel like that's just I mean, there's always going to be, there's 50% of America that like Trump, okay, there's 50% that don't. I'm personally not American, so maybe I couldn't have an opinion on it. I don't like Trump, but the point I'm trying to make is ultimately, there's always going to be separate opinions, but I know my own journey. And I know the outcome of my own journey. And I've always been glad that I did it the right way. I never did anything wrong to anyone. I treated people with respect. I built stuff that I love.
Yeah.
And I built stuff that I love that hasn't worked. I still love it. This is very important. People have built stuff they didn't love and it didn't work and they're bitter.
Yeah.
I built stuff that I love and it hasn't worked and I still love it.
And you carried on.
Yeah, because actually losing the money didn't matter because I still did something I loved.
Yeah. It's funny actually, one of the videos I've done earlier was about when I lost £12,000, and actually it was still in a model that I still enjoyed, there was no due diligence done behind it. So I totally agree. There are huge points there that you need to take on board that Simon has shared. And actually I think having that connection does make you get through the hard times. So there is a real 50-50 split, but I would lean towards and agree with Simon that having that connection gets you through the hard times. And this is my whole thing, I'm going to come on to this now, is people are too bombarded with a lot of marketing that is out there. I know we've been talking about that, with quick instant money, whereas you've just said it's moulded you, it's taken time. And actually there's a very successful business owner I know who isn't huge in a profile, and one of the things that he's always said and really stuck with me is don't put timelines on things, just enjoy the journey, because it is literally going to go up, it's going to go down, and that's where I get that term from. It will mould you at the end of it. So I love that. So moving on to the next question is, someone starts the business, they've done everything you say, you don't need a lot of capital. How does now someone scale? Because there's these levels. How does someone go from 50k a year to 100 to that big £1 million? How do you level up? How do you take those big steps?
Well, the first step actually to ask yourself, do you want to do that? Why do you want to do that? What's the reason for growing revenue?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't like to admit that. Why don't you just build a business that's a lifestyle business? Nothing wrong with that. So sometimes, and again, I've been involved with groups of people that talk about, 7-figure entrepreneurs. Come on.
Yeah.
What does that mean? I can create a $1 billion business by tomorrow afternoon from today. Tomorrow afternoon, $1 billion business turnover, right? It doesn't mean anything, right? I can sell $1 for 99 cents. And I pay it cash flow 30 days later. So in other words, I can create everyone will give me a dollar. I'll give me 99 cents if I give them $1 back, right?
Yeah.
So I'll get 99 cents. I have a 7-figure business by tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't mean it's profitable, and it doesn't mean it matters, right? So I think a lot of people get confused by turnover. But building a business, in my view, has been made out to be some, the tech world has made it look like that.
Yeah.
Right, but the reality, and we've all seen the graphs on the internet, it's like this.
Yeah.
Right, because basically I've had months where I've made nothing, and I've had months where I've made £1 million.
Yeah.
And that's the reality of it. And I've had 3 or 4 months where I've earned nothing, and I've had times in my life where I'm like, oh my God, this isn't working. Mm-hmm. Right, but because the purpose is strong, I've stuck at it, and then the money's come.
Yeah.
So I think when building a business, you've got to accept that, because I've also sacked clients. Right, so I've had millions of pounds of turnover and then had to sack a client because it's not fun to work with them anymore.
Yeah.
And so if you look at the revenue only, I would never sack that client. But I sacked them because it wasn't good for the culture of the business. We weren't enjoying it as a group of people. I wasn't enjoying it. So yes, we sacrificed turnover to have a nicer life, but that meant we could survive when other people couldn't. I mean, so I think sometimes you've got, I think building a business, there is also, of course, cash flow management, all the stuff an accountant could tell you to do.
Yeah.
I don't need to go through it all now, but structure your business for the long term, invest in things hopefully that are assets, not liabilities. Those are the ways, of course, to build a sustainable high turnover business. But that takes time, right? So, yeah. But yeah, I think, of course, there's angel investment. If you want to grow a business, you can get people to invest in you. So if you want to scale up, but again, ask yourself why. Because as soon as you take an angel investor, I'm an angel investor, so I can say this. Sometimes when you take an angel investor on board, you're kind of taking a boss on board.
Yeah.
You've gone from self-employed to now actually having to report to someone because they gave you money. So, and I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing, right? Sometimes, and I like to think I'm one of these people, having an angel investor can be beneficial to your business. But equally, do you need to do that for the sake of speeding up your turnover? Or can you be patient, do more sales, work a little harder, care a little more, and it will get there anyway?
Yeah. We're going to, on angel investment, we're going to stick around for part 3 because we're going to talk about angel investment. I like what you just said there in the sense that if you don't need to scale, it's timing, isn't it? And I like this because we're pushing back, and this is the whole purpose of these videos, is that you've got to look at your reasoning. So I like what you just said in the sense that why do you want to scale it? Does that reflect what you do in your life? So I think that is the thing. Or people watching this, there are so many thumbnails out there saying I see it all. Clubhouse was huge for it, wasn't it?
Seven-figure entrepreneurs, seven-figure entrepreneurship. It was like.
It is really out there. And when I work with clients, the first thing that I do, any time anything that I do has to do a lot of checks, proof of funds, stuff like that. So a lot of people end up coming unstuck. So do take everything with a pinch of salt when you see this 7-figure, because when people are asked to show the money, I've seen it firsthand. There are not a lot of people that actually have got the money that they're claiming to have. It was a thumbnail catch. It was, So love that. What are your thoughts on business in regards to partnerships or flying solo? For me, I fly solo. I rely on myself. What I do, I'm able to scale and grow by myself. But sometimes I feel like people lean towards a partnership because they need it, or they need their money, or they need to give away 50%. What's your thoughts? Partnerships or flying solo? Or a bit of both?
I guess this is a bit like, get married or stay single. I think it's a very similar parallel to it. I think there's some people that just like being single and like the single lifestyle, and I think there's people that like to be in relationships, and I don't think either is right or wrong. I can say that I personally have a certain set of skills. Sounds like that's that Taken movie, isn't it? And I know what I'm good at. I don't particularly like. I'm a visionary. I like to see the future. I like to build things for the future. I hate detail, especially operational detail. So I don't want to be dealing with the accounts side of it. I want someone else to manage that. I don't want to be dealing with detailed contracts and stuff. I want someone I can trust to do that. So I prefer to work with someone that's really good at that. And I have been able to perfect my craft, my front-end marketing communications craft, because I haven't had to worry about that back-end stuff. Right? Now, there are some people, and you seem like one of these people, that can do both, right? I just know my limitations. So I think you've got to know yourself. And so over the years, I have always, my business earlier, I mentioned Fluid, that I had a creative partner. I'm not a designer, right? I'm not a videographer, like the person filming today. This is a skill. Yeah. And so I accept that's not my skill, and I work with people that have that skill. And if it's a core element of the business, I will make them a partner. Right, so that's how I've managed to do 19 businesses. I think so that's my style. It doesn't mean it's right for your audience listening, but I feel like you've got to know yourself, and you know yourself clearly. I know myself. I am actually presently a sole founder in the business. I've got 100% of the Purposeful Project. It's me, and I am looking for a co-founder. So that's the other way to go. I can build it on my own now. I can hire a good accountant. I can hire a good operations person. I've done that, but I'm still looking for a co-founder because there's something in. And I'm in a relationship for 20 years, so I'm the person that likes to be in relationships, There's something really fun about, it's like going on holiday somewhere. You go on holiday with someone. I enjoy it a lot more than I go there on my own. Yeah. I can look at it and I can take pictures and I'm going to come back and show people. But it's not the same as we're both there looking at, whatever we're looking at. So I like going on the journey with someone, and then there's almost like a reminisce of like, do you remember that time we walked into CNN and we said we're going to do this, and they gave us the contract there and then on the spot. Do you remember that? Otherwise it's me telling a story about how I walked into the CNN office and I won this contract, and it's just not as much fun. Yeah. Now it goes from that's a flex, Whereas when I'm talking to that with the person that was with me, it's a story.
Yeah.
And I like stories.
Yeah. No, I like that, and I like the take on telling the story, because I also feel that when you turn around and you tell someone, especially if you're telling your children and stuff like that, it's nice to have said that you've done it with someone. It's been graft. So yeah, brilliant points again. So take that away, but of course it's up to your own personal circumstances. So finally, at what point should someone step away from the business and look at it as the overview and then work on that business? At what point do you take the boots off the ground? Your answer on that?
Yeah, this is a great question, actually. And I think for anybody out there that's thinking about how to have an exit strategy in your business, or how to stop yourself being the only person that has to be there every day. You don't want to be there every day. You want help. This is really tricky. I would say I help a lot of people with their businesses, and one of the things I see the most is self-sabotage.
Yeah.
And this is where people think that they're the only person that can run their business. And actually what they're saying quite often is they are scared to let go because it's their identity. So what happens is people say, I want to grow my business. And I'll say, okay, so let's look at your structure. And then you look at the structure and you say, well, you are doing, as a founder, 3 jobs. So why don't we outsource the marketing to someone else? Oh, I know my clients, I know the business. It's going to be very hard to find someone like that. I'm like, why would it be very hard to find someone like that? Well, we don't have much money to pay them. I'm like, well, no, what you mean is you're taking all the money out.
Yeah.
And as you start getting into it, you realise what they're actually doing is that they're not allowing themselves to free themselves up and take the boots off the ground.
Yeah.
And so, and then people wonder why they don't scale or why the business fails, because they hold on too tight.
Yeah.
And I've personally discovered this. I built a company from scratch. It was a big business, and I thought I was the only one that could run it.
Yeah.
And then pretty much my wife said, you have to take time off, and you need to find someone else to run this business. And I was like, it's never going to happen. I'm never going to find anyone who can run it like me. I'm brilliant.
Yeah.
No one's ever going to be able to run it like me. I built this company from scratch. I'm just the best. There's no one better. And then I found someone better, and they came in and they doubled the revenue. They built the business up, and then I didn't even have to go in anymore, and they were taking care of it, and it was brilliant. But it took a lot of pressure for me to see that. And then once I've had that experience, now I can tell other people, because I've had it. I can see people that were similar to me, like, just a genius. It's just, there's no one can run it like me. I built it myself.
Yeah.
And you stop the business from growing. You stifle it.
You can almost run it into the ground,
Totally. Well, actually, sometimes that's what has happened. It dies with the person that built it.
I suppose also you lose sight of where it could go.
Yeah, it's like fresh blood. I've lived in Hong Kong for many years, and the banks there, and I hate banking, but banks there would every 3 years change their management, even if the management were doing incredibly well.
Keep it fresh.
Exactly, and I think that's true of your own business. It's actually my mark is 3 years, so I'm a year and a half into building Purposeful Project. In a year and a half's time, I will bring someone else in to run this platform.
That fresh blood.
And I'm not saying I will stop being involved. I definitely won't, because this is a bit more of a legacy business for me. But I will definitely bring in fresh blood.
Yeah.
And that fresh blood will probably do a better job than me, because I was there at the beginning with all my beliefs about where the world was 3 years ago, and they'll come in with what their belief is about the world today.
Yeah.
And that's important. But a lot of people, I would say 90% of small business owners get stuck because of this.
There are amazing points there. And also, actually, just to finish on before we move on to part 3, if you are an investor going into a business, I think that's important to look at the board of directors. Have the board of directors sat in that position for 30 years, or are they bringing on new advisory board members? Because if you're investing, if they've got, for me, I would look at that. So those are amazing points. Simon, incredible, loved all of that. Stick around to part 3, where we're going to be talking about investors, investments, and your network.